Welcome to Destiny Movie Night. We talk today about a TV series called Black Mirror, which is referred as a dark side of technology. It's interestingly jump right to the guests. We have tonight Anna Briggs Thompson.
Yes. Hi everyone. Oh, you have to click yourself off down there so that so that the image changes.
It changes, as I see.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
great.
it does.
And also welcoming Marlene Vargas Terrazo from Mexico.
Yes, hi, and thanks for inviting me.
So, what was your first impression, or which was your favorite part of the series, Anna?
Well, would you mind if I start by talking a little bit about what it's about?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so Black Mirror, if you haven't watched it, it's a British television show, and there's been like 2 seasons. We don't know if they're going to create a 3rd season. And then there was a Christmas special in 2014, December. And it's, like you said, it's like the dark side of technology. And all the episodes, it's not like a consecutive series where you follow the same characters. Each episode is an independent story with different actors, which in itself makes it really interesting. But then at the same time, there's the same exact theme throughout all the episodes, and each episode takes up one or several like problems, or like take a point of technology like social media, or what else could it be, virtual reality, or artificial intelligence, and takes that to like the maximum limit. And a lot, like we just talked about before the hangout, a lot of the episodes, it's really, really creepy and scary, but not like in a cool horror way, but in a very interesting way that really makes you think. So that would be like my just immediate introduction to the series. My first impression was I watched the first episode. I'm sure Marlene is also going to comment on that. I think we actually watched it together, or we watched it like I watched it after Marlene watched it.
Around the time, yeah.
Yeah. We got it actually from another friend who had watched it, and I actually found it kind of boring, and it didn't really speak to me in the beginning, which is interesting. And then after people kept talking about it, I was like, okay, I'll give it one more chance, and then I was just blown away by it. So, yeah.
Yeah, the creepy aspect is that it's about reflecting on technology that it's relatively new to ourselves as human beings. I mean, from the last 20 years, we've seen developments that nowhere in our past as human history we've had any, encounter with. And right now, the whole way that we relate to each other is changing. I mean, we wouldn't be talking to each other right now if there was not technology as such. But this show precisely focuses on taking it to the whole next level, which you really do ponder if we're going to get to have such kind of inventions. And if you've watched the series, you might have also gotten the idea that, oh, that's just too far away. But for example, in the first episode, that there is a situation of a politician placed in a very uncomfortable position in a, let's say, deviant sexual act with an animal, just to give it a name. I saw it as, this thing happening in the UK as a potential terrorist threat, or someone playing a bad joke on the entire population and being on the news. So you can relate to that kind of sensationalism that we're played by the media, but I saw it as too far-fetched. Okay, that's just too much, seeing the mayor of London, let's say, with an animal in some kind of sexual act. Yet, when you watch the news, and not so long ago, you're getting to know about real deviant aspects going on in London, specifically coming from royalty and pedophilia and pedophile rings, and actors coming out as having been involved with sexual acts with kids, etc. So once that you start kind of linking the dots of this is the fiction that I've been presented with, and this is the reality, you start really pondering, are we not that far away from this? Or could this show actually even create some kind of creativity or instill creativity into people to actually get to do such kind of technological advancements and so forth, which we will be continuing discussing on.
Yes, because it's inevitable that technology will develop and our symbiotism will just grow, I guess, because there is no limit now and everything is faster and quicker. And do you think that is there any place for privacy or intimacy when technology will take over or is taking over?
Yeah, we can give the example from one of the episodes, and I'll just say that we can't really do this this hangout without doing a lot of spoilers. So if you haven't watched the series, I apologize. Maybe you can come back if you really want to watch it. But anyway, so in one of the episodes, I don't even remember which one it was. Maybe you guys remember. I think it's the second one of the second season, the one with the memories. Do you remember?
The third one of the first series, The Entire History of You.
Yes. So in that, they have developed this little chip device that are put into like people's, is it their neck or their ear or something? And what it does is that it gives them the ability to replay everything that's ever happened in their life. Like all their memories are recorded. So they can watch all their memories again and again and again and again. And so this episode kind of depicts what would happen in a world where everything that you've ever done is recorded and because what you can do is that you could put it up on a TV screen, which they do in that episode, and like this guy, for example, he forces his girlfriend to show what she did, and then it reveals that she was actually cheating on him. So is there room for, like, I would say that the privacy discussion and the intimacy discussion would be like two different discussions. But I know that Malin also has a perspective on this.
Yeah, for example, when we look at all that we've become as memories, as our minds and everything that we identify ourselves with, that is something that is plainly invisible to us. It is a fictional construct out there, concept that only we can refer to. But this really makes us ponder what would happen if suddenly either we get this kind of devices wherein we can check up on each other in terms of each other's memories, and the way that that changes our interactions in relation to knowing the truth about someone, knowing what really went on and how one would react to that, which if we look at how we have our relationships right now, we have no option to really know what the other one is thinking or what the other one has actually done. So we kind of create a false sense of trust based on what we know or we want to believe of another. But what would happen when we have the actual ability to know each other that well to the point of seeing exactly what he or she did and ponder you having a relationship with that person and how it would change the level of intimacy, trust, but not upon the person sharing themselves because they want to, but because you have a device that is kind of exposing you. So that's where self-honesty comes in, actually.
No, I was just going to say that another stream in that episode, like another storyline, is that the guy, like it's about this guy who goes to this interview with his boss, like this yearly review.
Creepy.
And then he goes home. He's like really sad afterwards and like worried that he's gonna lose his job or whatever. And so he replays it over and over and over again. And he's like, ask his girlfriend, come and see this, so he can replay what happened, what he saw with his eyes, and like look at the boss and what is he thinking about me. And you know what's interesting is that, and he becomes really paranoid. But what is really interesting is that we're actually already doing this. Like, I think all of us can relate to that point of replaying a situation in your mind over and over again, but only in the Black Mirror, it is being like externalized. It's being made physical, that now you can literally do it and you can have other people join in as well.
Yes, and also in the way that then what is the limit? For instance, what we can trust, and it's really interesting because then there is no choice, as Marlene started to explain, that then leaving someone who has nothing to hide or nothing to fear, because this is my life and I am sort of proud of this is who I am, and even if I make a mistake, I am willing to acknowledge and change or learn.
You know what? It's interesting now that we're talking about the cameras being attached to people. This is something that is being proposed to police upon all of the police abuse that has happened in the US.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying, you know what? Yes, we will place cameras, but we want made the recordings available to people, which is obviously a violation to the trust of our people, of course. So in that, we can see that even if the technology gets to exist for such kind of supportive means to ensure this transparency, regulations, laws will still define who gets to watch what.
Yeah.
And at the same time, in the private aspect, so to speak, we would still, if there was such kind of device, even if it was for the purpose of, let's say, walking process and getting the actual detail of who was I in that situation and how others were interacting with me, and using it for the sake of writing yourself and replaying it with a more visual aspect, many people would claim that it would still be a breach of privacy because maybe Google has access to your memories and they can track you and they can frame you as a terrorist. So this is where the whole debate against technology comes in, wherein how can we use it to a supportive aspect, such as this recording. It could be used in a supportive manner, but if it is connected to the internet and NSA and other aspects, can become a point of fear and paranoia toward the public because they can say, oh, they're going to know everything about me, and that's not cool. How could we prevent that is only through rules, regulations, that we actually choose how this technology is used and who gets access to it.
Yeah, can I add also another perspective, like the opposite? Do you remember there is an episode about social media, and and this kind of relates to the whole question of intimacy, where you're asking if intimacy can still exist if technology kind of takes over our lives. And in this episode, social media has been made physical. So it's like you're walking around in a virtual Facebook reality, right? And what that means is that, because on social media networks, if people are bullying you or harassing you, you can block them, which means that they can't get in contact with you and you can't get in contact with them. All right. So in this virtual reality, this episode, you can physically block someone. So you can block someone so that they really can't see you and you really can't see them, and you see this like
grayish.
Yeah, like, and that I found also quite interesting is that, again, like, it's a reflection of what we're already doing in how, like you're saying, that we can either use technology to support our lives and expand our lives, or we can like move even further away from each other. Like in the attempt to connect with each other through the internet, for example, we can disconnect even more and create less intimacy, but it's not really the technology that's the culprit, it's ourselves.
Yeah, right, because in a way it's like the externalization of our mind. What are we already doing?
Yeah.
And that's why we use tools to specify and evolve these aspects of ourselves. So it's like creating more separation and more lack of wholeness as beingness, because we relate more and more to technology, what can be abused by, or even the technicians who write these codes. It's also a point what people, I guess, can be afraid of.
Yeah.
And there also comes when, go ahead.
No, I was just, but maybe we can discuss this later, but I would just like if we could also bring up the point of crime and how crime can be potentially dealt with through the merging of technology and the physical body in the future, because that's also interestingly depicted in Black Mirror in several episodes, but we can leave that for later.
Yeah, I was going to mention about virtual reality and kind of creating the parallel to what's going on right now, and how there are going to be machines that are, when you're going to be wearing like some kind of glove, and if you have a partner overseas, the person will be able to feel and even smells and stuff like that. So that is being made as we speak. So it also, this series, watching it, is also supportive in the sense of seeing how would I react to that kind of things. Is it human? Is it not human? What do I define as being real or not real? Because we also have the whole thing about virtual reality and how it can become more addictive than being in real life, because in virtual reality you create your space, you create your world. And that is also part of our coming future. So this is also to prepare ourselves as to how do I decide to interact with this technology? Who do I decide to be with it?
Yes, right. Just like I was coming from the metro towards home, and it's like half of the people are earplugged and watching the smartphones,
Yeah.
and it's already happening. Like I'm standing here, and I am here. I mean, physically and mentally. And then people are so far away that even I push them, they say, I am sorry, but they are not aware of what's going on around. And
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Yeah, I work as a teacher, and the other day I saw at a preschool, and I saw a father who was handing over his children, and the whole time he was just like looking on his phone, you know, like your precious children that you're leaving to be taken care of by someone else all day, and you can't even, you know, put down the phone to interact and like look them in the eyes, and you know, and it's not a point of like blaming him, because I really do understand that there is this, and especially because it's still so new, it's almost all that you are. It's like it goes into that thing. It's interesting.
Also,
Which there's also an episode.
There's also about the relationships, and we can get onto that episode as well. But right now what's happening in our reality is that you go to a restaurant or you go out with your husband, wife, whatever, and you see couples, entire families, all of them eating, but here with a cell phone all the time. So there's no interaction any longer. And there's even, I guess it's New York City, wherein they have these lanes specifically for people with cell phones and just regular pedestrians, so that, you know, what? Talkie or something. Yeah, there is now that, like cell phone people and regular pedestrians. So
Crazy.
this is happening. So that's why it's so relevant also to discuss these topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the episode about the guy that says, I'll be right back, and the episode is called like that, and he actually dies. It's a spoiler, of course. And the girlfriend, well, he had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend is left, of course, without her boyfriend. And she suddenly, I think she discovers that he's like this virtual entity that is created with the program out of everything that he said on social media, on Twitter, all his Facebook photos. So it's like creating this virtual identity persona that will be continuing to interact with her. So obviously it's creepy because the actual guy is dead, but she continues to interact with this fictional character. So it also places into question who we have become, only the things that we post on social media, who do we want to be also recalled as in terms of everything that we write, say, and place out there in the internet.
Yes, exactly. For instance, there was a friend of mine who told me that using social media is already a point of kind of integrity, because who you express yourself to be, it's a kind of mirror already. And we are not accustomed with this kind of power, because with one click we can share with the whole world things what we didn't even consider. It's and it's once it's out there, there is no turning back. So.
It does involve a lot of responsibility on that, because many times we believe that it's just a game, like, oh yeah, like how they do these experiments of how people would say a lot of bad stuff about someone's picture, for example, like, oh, you look horrible, oh, you look like shit. But if someone does actually go out there and does that same thing, like walking down the street and say, oh, that hair looks terrible on you, and saying it face to face is completely different. So it's also how technology has been used as this kind of nice shield with which we can speak shit and not be accountable for it. So in this context of self-honesty, we have to consider that, how to be accountable for everything that we post and share.
Yeah, that's also why I don't find privacy to be the most important aspect of our discussion about the internet, because it's like within that whole point of wanting things to be private, you know, it's like naturally there are things you want to hide, or you want to hide behind, either out of fear or because you know that what you want to do and what you want to share is not self-honest, is not, you know that it can have consequences for yourself or for others. And so I actually find in the way that I use social media is like being as transparent as possible, without compromising my practical reality, like not putting my phone number on Facebook, for example, which I did do in the beginning until I realized how stupid that was. Yeah, so that's an interesting point, and how like there are so many other discussions about the internet that I see are more relevant to have than the privacy discussion. But it's interesting.
Something that people that support the idea of privacy say is that the person that argued that we should not fear, being having everything exposed or being transparent, because the person that fears, having no privacy is because they have something to hide, and so vice versa. That was Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister from the Nazi regime. So I have said that before, like, well, people can check me and I have nothing to hide, and that is considered that, oh, that's what the Nazis said. But in the end, it's really about transparency. Like, if we know that it's not the most desirable thing to have everything that you say on Skype and everywhere else recorded in some kind of place in Utah where you have no access to it. However, if you can present yourself or ensure that everything that you say is something that you're willing to stand up and take responsibility for, that's a way to, let's say, lower the type of paranoia that can also emerge from this kind of technology.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
also, yeah, go ahead, Talman, sorry.
Oh, sorry, just I was referring to, that's why I find really supporting the Journey to Life blogs, because we write, sometimes it's not the coolest aspects of ourselves, but as we share how we walk through, how we take responsibility for, and this is what I commit myself to change about, and it's kind of transparency, and it's already something what I can support myself with, and also with others. So it's really, first it was quite creepy as well to me, like writing about the dishonesties of my relationships or addictions, but then I realized that this is the process, and I can change, and this is the practical way.
Yeah, I've also found that the blogs that I've shared online that was actually the most personal, the most like intimate for me to walk through, are the ones where I've gotten the most response from people saying that it really supported them. So I mean, and that's also what I would say to the discussion about privacy. If people say like we need privacy so that we can, resist the government in secret because otherwise we risk being prosecuted, where I would say that the solution to that is even more transparency, and transparency also being exposing the corruption, exposing the systems, making everything so clear that everyone can, like, for example, working towards making laws understandable. There are so many things that through transparency means that we as individuals have the ability to stand up and direct the system. Like, for example, going into politics, or people sharing the processes that they've walked with becoming political, for example. So I find that the point of transparency is actually extremely powerful. And like you said, Malin, like I stand here, I have nothing to hide, so there's nothing to get me on. And then with the point of censorship, which I think that discussion is even more important, is that the solution there is, of course, to keep developing open source software, and that the programmers and the hackers turn their attention to social activism and work towards developing programs or software codes or whatever that can prevent the internet from being censored.
Yes, because even that is going to be also regulated or sold to major corporations to get the fastest access as net neutrality problem. But also in terms of the political aspect, of which there is also a very cool episode on Black Mirror wherein a cartoon becomes a political figure.
Waldo.
So that was like, no way, that's so close to reality, because, in the end, it's a character that we've made as someone that we choose to vote on as a political actor just because we like them, or he's affable, or he's empathetic, or he has
like
a good sense of humor. Exactly. Like, he's got a sense of humor. I can relate to him. He makes these big shows in the plaza. And yeah, exactly. You get to see that a year later or 2 years later with someone like Russell Brand that precisely does that, what Waldo did, and Waldo ends up getting people's support. So it is like, no way, we won't ever do that. But we actually do that the same when we see an affable character, a charismatic character.
So I just like quickly, for those who haven't seen it, like in that episode, it's a guy who plays an animated bear, like he's the voice of an animated bear that has a segment on a TV show. And, you know, events conspire so that the production ends up pushing him into becoming, like, signing up for the local government or whatever, like running for mayor. I don't remember the position. And the real guy really doesn't want to, but he, you know, it's his job. So, and this character is like foul-mouthed and like he doesn't believe in anything, and he does, just like Russell Brand, like he doesn't believe in voting, he doesn't believe in politics. Not to say that politics is just awesome, that's a whole different discussion, but anyway, so in the end he becomes immensely successful, everyone loves this character, and in the end, the CIA wants to buy him, and they want to use him. So that's interesting.
Which says quite a lot for precisely going back to reality and how these charismatic leaders is something that are not made by themselves. It is how we react and interact with them that makes them popular and big. So that's also our responsibility as the people, to be able to spot that kind of deception and how it can be amplified through how we react to them as liking only, instead of looking at commonsensically what are they proposing. Is it doable, feasible, practical, self-responsible?
Yes, especially that they create these politician characters, how they move, how they speak, how they wear the ties. A bunch of psychologists suggest them, so it's really fake, like Waldo himself, so to speak. And in a way, it's cool because it shouldn't matter that it's a real person or it's a principle about all life. I guess for me it was the reflection, like, yeah, kind of, if Waldo could stand for all life, it doesn't matter if it's, I don't know, Mickey Mouse or Frankenstein. But at the end, in this episode, it didn't turn quite well.
There's also another episode which is a little bit more like the message in that is like, I'm not sure if I completely got it, but it was definitely creepy. So in this, maybe one of you can do a synopsis, but it's the one with the talent show. Do you remember that one where they have to ride this bicycle to earn points? And then they get to go in this like American Idol kind of TV show, but they're trapped inside this system and don't really understand why they're in there.
Yeah, that was a weird one. It was the second one of the first season, and it mostly shows how people are like constantly interacting with technology, but at the same time like only exercising and kind of having these very cubicle-like rooms wherein everything is like automated and with lots of lights, and like their entire life is being like a big brother type of thing. That's how I perceived it at the same time. So it also shows how our reality has become all about kind of like the reality shows out there, but they show it out as the outside, like this is reality now, and you're no longer on TV, you are it. So that's creepy.
One of the really like significant points in that episode is this guy that's the main character. He doesn't really want all that like entertainment, and he's just kind of there. And he's forced to. He lives in this like cubicle where there are like TV screens everywhere around him, and he's being forced to watch porn. And if he doesn't, he gets penalized and he loses his points. Like the whole thing is about gaining points. Yeah. Presumably so that you can get out of there. And he doesn't want to look at the porn. And if he like closes his eyes, there's this voice that says, open your eyes. You're not allowed to. You have to look. You have to look. And that I find really significant in terms of what, like, as a commentary to what the media is how it's being imposed on us, and how we perceive it as though like it's our free choice to like go and click on the porn or whatever, but where it's actually like
yes, intensifying like utmost, and we do not have choice, because whatever we react, we are getting hooked onto the reactions.
Yeah.
And it's also related to advertisement, because sometimes media is something that you actually choose to turn on the TV and play it. Maybe some commercials can have already this kind of porn ads or getting hot girls, that you can watch involuntarily, apparently. But when you go outside, you see all these adverts that are just there. You cannot really avoid it. No matter who you're traveling with, little children, whatever, it's there. So it's also that kind of imposition that you cannot really escape on. And all that matters is how we interact with that. If we buy into the sexual impulse, so to speak, then we are just going to fall for the trap of what the intent of that advertisement is, which is to consume sex, to seek sex, or that kind of experience. So in this, it's also kind of preparing ourselves to that kind of world wherein every single video that we watch on YouTube can have an advertisement, and we also have to decide how we interact with that advertisement. So that's also where our responsibility comes, even if everything around us becomes technology-like.
Yeah, and just to one final thing with that episode, what I just remembered is that all the people in that, you know, the people on the TV screens that they're watching, the porn actors, and the people that are cleaning behind them as they do, they're all part of the same group. So for example, the ones that lose the bicycle race, they get pushed into the porn, or the ones that get really fat and they can't ride the bicycle anymore, they get put on this like embarrassing social media show where they have to like eat pies or whatever. So it also goes to show that we're all in the same boat. Like it's not them versus us. Like we're all caught in this like nightmare, this sweet sticky nightmare that we've created for ourselves with consumerism and entertainment.
Yeah, it's like a kind of rotating, because then one moment I am the star of or the celebrity, and then in the next moment the another guy, and everyone can be special and everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like a brainwashing. And then how can we assist and support ourselves to stop reacting this brainwashing, basically? So then investigating what is actually brainwashing and how we are responsible for washing our brain, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'd like to discuss on the topic of the episode where this guy, the Christmas special, wherein he's asking for support on dating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you share with that, Anna, about that?
Well, the dating, because that episode, well, that's the most recent one that was aired in December, but the dating part of it, I actually, because other parts of that episode had such an impact on me that I kind of don't remember that part a lot. So maybe Talamon we can talk about the other parts after that I remember mostly.
Yeah, so the guy's job was basically to watch over someone's dating and suggesting him how to approach women, how to get what they want. So basically being a pro, like how they call this, being a pickup artist, how they
Yeah, yes.
So it was sort of like that, embedded into his characteristics, and how it was how it ended up with a kind of a tragic experience.
Yeah.
So what you wanted to talk about this, Marlene?
Yeah, like precisely how someone's lack of, let's say, experience with getting a relationship or how to approach females would resort to this kind of futuristic service of being able to be told from an experienced guy what to do, how to approach the girl, and he ends up getting the girl through these kind of advices, which is very weird, just like a voice in the head that tells you exactly what to do to get the girl, which is what many people really want to do. So if you do see it as a potential kind of service, it could happen in the end. But what they don't realize is that it ends up in a tragic manner, as Tala was saying, because the girl ends up actually poisoning or drugging up the guy, and he ends up dead, if I remember well.
Yes.
But the point here is like that extreme of how one insecurity that one hasn't dealt with, or how to rather practice communication skills and how to approach females, etc., it can become such a problem to the extent that you resort to someone else to, through this technology, tell you what to do without measuring consequences, because you haven't really gotten to know the person. You were only looking to get the girl and have sex, for example. So in that, it's also like that extreme of technology gone wrong.
Yeah, and speaking about sex and relationships, in the one with the memories that we discussed before, where people can replay memories, there is this scene where a couple is having sex, and then each of them is not really there with their partner. They're busy replaying memories in their mind of better times of having sex.
Yeah, that was quite creepy. And actually, people are doing it while listening to thoughts instead of being absolutely here with physical and.
Or watching porn while they're having sex. Yeah. But then in this Christmas episode, there was probably what I found the most. Well, not the most creepy, but the second most creepy of all the episodes, which is where, basically they found a way to extract consciousness and download consciousness, your entire consciousness, into like a chip or a USB thing, and then they put it into this like little pod thingy, this little egg device, where a version of you, a virtual version of you, will exist in this like virtual universe. And there are like several stories with that thing, but this girl, she does it deliberately to herself. She's this like perfectionist who wants like a perfect, she's this businesswoman and she wants this perfect life where everything, you know, her toast is perfect, her makeup, everything is just like just right. And so she deliberately goes and makes a copy of herself. And then you kind of follow both, like the virtual self, which is an exact copy. So it is her and then her real self. And so she wakes up in this like egg structure and realizes that she is a copy of herself and that she forever, for all of eternity, has to exist as this virtual version of herself. And her job is to be like a remote control for her real self's life. So she has to regulate the temperature and put on the toast and whatever. I found that to be so creepy and also like bringing up a lot of existential questions like, okay, but then what is real? What is your real self? Because it's not like it was just a version of her. It really was her. And why would you then do that to yourself if you know yourself? And how horrible it would be. How did you guys see that part of that episode?
I can link it to also transhumanism and the whole discussion of precisely that, what would happen if one can transcend one's body through technology, downloading one's consciousness, and just like that movie Transcendence, be everywhere all the time, which is something that, I mean, there's even like people in political parties advocating this kind of futuristic ability to be living forever through machines, through technology, which is kind of like the ultimate desire to be like gods and wanting to be all-knowing and wanting to connect ourselves to the internet, which is something similar to what Google Glass, as we were discussing, was attempting to do in terms of being able to constantly and continually be connected to the internet. And this also questions a lot, what do we really want to live as in relation to, are we only aiming at knowing it all or wanting to be everywhere or wanting to be super powerful, or are we really here to be living meaningful lives that are dedicated to not kind of becoming Superman or super powerful, but really first changing the shit that is going on in the world and becoming part of a solution, which is of course our principles first of all, because if we are flawed in that nature of wanting to be super powerful with technology, then that technology can backlash, if that's the word. Wherein there's a lot of talk about AI becoming self-conscious and machines taking over because they can recreate their own, like an algorithm can create other algorithms at the same time. So we were discussing about that, if you guys want to take it.
Yes, for instance, for me it was the point that if I could be copied into a machine or a computer system, then am I willing to accept the fact that in a way I am just a program, or shall I explore the limits of my programmatic behavior or aspect? So then figuring out that this consciousness is just a programmable system, then what is life? So what should be my principle or, I don't know, starting point to live or explore or share or take responsibility for? Because I work with computers and there is this virtualization going on. Like I virtualize computers, so I run the server and the development machine and everything is in one machine, and even one virtual machine I can virtualize a cell phone, a mobile phone. So it's like already happening quite intensely. and half of the internet is also just virtual servers, not physical servers running on other servers. So we should find the balance and also the stability point within ourselves, because with losing ourselves with this kind of technological things, then one point I am identified with the processor of my smartphone, so to speak, because it's so slow all the time. So it's like, we call it, I am, when the battery is going off from the cell phone.
Yeah, it's dead. The phone is dead.
Yeah, and then people in Hungary, they say that I'm drained down, so to speak, like literally saying that, okay, I'm off now, but it's just the phone, and it's already happening, the identification.
Yeah,
Right. That's an interesting linguistic approach. Like, oh, I ran out of battery. I ran out of battery.
Yeah. Yeah. Could we also talk like quickly about the white bear episode, because I find that is the most creep. That was like the one that I reacted the most. Like,
Yeah, me
that
too.
was the most shocking to me. So what did you guys? Do you want to give like a quick synopsis of it, Telemann?
Yeah, it starts with a woman recognizing that she's in this weird reality where everyone is only an observer, so to speak, and then she being reminded with things around herself, and then finding this creepy noise, what is really like killing her mind, and then she has to escape because these are people who are trying to kill her, sort of, and then other people are around. So it's like a horror movie in almost entire movie or the episode, and then at the end it turned out that it is a weird punishment theme park or therapy where she's being punished for a sort of sin, like she had
committed a crime.
yeah, so that's why she's like regulated or teach the lesson or sort of, but it was weird because she didn't remember, and then it was the most creepy point when it restarted again.
Yeah. So after she realizes that it's like this setup that she's being put through to realize the crime that she's committed, they make her forget again, and then they make her go through that whole thing again. And supposedly they do that every day.
Yeah.
That reminds us so much to like reincarnation in the end, like all the lives that we've lived and doing the same shit over and over again and not being able to get it and coming back here and not being able to recall it. So it does really prove how, to what extent, you know, even the kind of either punishment or lessons to be learned in life type of thing still exists and comes through even in shows like this, wherein we're saying to ourselves, yeah, I mean, that's what has actually happened at maybe some unconscious level, and it's being portrayed there.
Right.
Yes.
You know what's interesting is that I've been considering this point of Black Mirror. Oh, and also I was looking at why it's called Black Mirror, and I kind of thought that it's like we said, the dark side of technology. But I also looked at the point of a mirror being painted black so that you can't see yourself. And that could be like another dimension of it, that that's what we kind of do with technology. But like we've been saying, the whole thing is that it's not the technology that's the problem, it's what we do with it. And so I've been looking at, like, is this, everything we see in Black Mirror, is that the future of our life with technology? Is that what they're trying to say? And what I've seen in my own life is that I'm like looking for that, when is it gonna peak? You know, like with other movements that, you know, it goes up and up and up and up, and people buy all these things, and then all of a sudden they start losing interest in it. But with modern technology, it's just been going up. So I found in my own life that I was like staring at my phone constantly, and I got to a point where I got tired of it, and I got tired of the novelty and the entertainment of it, and I started looking for more like practical ways to integrate the technology into my life, instead of my life and me being like consumed by the technology. Is that something you guys have also looked at?
Yes. For instance, I found an app which is showing the parliament members of the government so I can look them up and then see what they are doing, how much they get paid off, or what is the email address. In a way, it's kind of practical stuff. Or also, I can pay the bills with my cell phone, like check my balance for things. And it's really cool because I don't have to travel for the post office, pay the bills. It's just like this.
Yeah.
So it can assist, and also with recording stuff, it's inevitable that technology must serve humans, not the opposite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Go ahead, Marlon.
The whole thing about fearing technology is really something that I suggest if anyone has that kind of reactions to really work with them, because as with everything, an instrument is defined by how we use it, and we wouldn't be talking here if there wasn't no technology. Everything that we write or speak or say and broadcast is also thanks to all of these technologies. So it's also about kind of implementing a new trend on how to use, for example, social media, which we also very much do as a group. And I'm kind of proud of also being able to be part of that, let's say, integration of principles and integration of some common sense in the net, wherein you find lots of abusive things. And so instead of kind of saying, oh, no, I don't want to have to do anything with the internet, I dislike technology, rather get to know it, get comfortable with it, and input what you would like the internet or technology to be.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I've given myself the title on Facebook as being a social media activist, and that's something that I take very seriously, so that when I share myself on social media, I do it with a purpose. I do it, you know, to, like, if I, like, during my day, if I have an insight that I'm like, damn, that was cool, that was really supportive, I hadn't realized that before, I go and I share it on social media, so that, like, with the aim that if we all would do that, like I was talking about previously with transparency, then we can actually use social media to learn, to grow, to expand ourselves, instead of it being like, you know, all cat videos and porn.
Yes.
Or exposing who got drunk with whom and la la la, which is the initial intent of Facebook, actually. So it's about, you know, even if it was intended to be just that. For example, in my case, I also don't use it at all for personal stuff, and everyone in my family knows that, you know, there's not going to be anything like private, because I use it for a social world change type of context, and that's cool. I mean, if you want to share it, just be ready for the consequences or possible situations. I've gotten threatened because of Facebook in the past, so I don't share any kind of personal stuff. So be careful with it as well.
Yes, that's a good ending, can be. And anything you would like to add, girls?
Anna?
Okay.
Not really.
I would simply say that it's really about being able to kind of stand in that phase of what would happen if everything that I am gets to be exposed, either through technology or through some kind of ability that we could get as human beings to suddenly read each other's minds and know everything of each other. Who would we be? And this is like a cool question to kind of introspect on, so that we become more aware of that accountability that all our thoughts, words, and deeds entail in our participation in this world. So it's not about technology in itself, but who we really are.
Yeah, and in extension of that, I would also say that every time this like fear comes up, you know, and you were talking about like the algorithm creates an algorithm, we can remind ourselves that we are already an algorithm. We're already a program. I read today an article that talked about how plants have a biological internet in the form of mushrooms, in the form of fungi. It is super interesting, and that's existed for like billions of years, you know, so it's not like, you know, everything that is here is coming from us. So it's not like we have to avoid it, you know, it's more about changing the way that we interact with it. And also all that, like, you know, that fearing whatever is out there, to remind ourselves that when we do that, what that means is that we're abdicating responsibility. We're creating a projection out there, when in fact we are the media, we are the internet. Like I tell my students that you can even like Google inside your own mind, you know. So, you know, it's all coming from us, and if we're not satisfied with the way that it is, we actually have to change ourselves. for it to change. Yes?
Yes.
Exactly.
We got a comment or question. I see from Yogan. I see Black Mirror means that technology is a mirror reflecting the blackness, darkness already within us, but
Exactly.
just to our faces.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's also kind of like the intent of this whole series to make evident, even through making it extreme or extrapolating it to a certain extent, but also precisely to get us questioning what we see as very normal. And that's the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. I really suggest to go and watch it, even though we've given all the spoilers here.
Not everything, but almost.
Not everything. Yeah, there are even episodes we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, and we're not that great at explaining the details, so you will miss out the whole. They really like place a lot of effort in kind of making the technology and the visuals for it, so it's really like a cool thing to watch.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you very much for being part of it, and thank you for the question, Yogan, and thank you everyone who watched this and participated and watched Black Mirror, and take care. Bye.
Bye.